So you may have heard how recently the UK is now on their third Prime Minister for the calendar year 2022 for the first time in 98 years. A true testament to the solidity of the post-COVID and post-Brexit British politics. Now, sitting an ocean away in my igloo in southeast Northwest Territories, I am comforted that Canadian politics is not so divisive. It's multiplicative? But I was wondering, was there a time when Canadian politics wasn't all smiles and I'm sorries? Did Canada ever have its own year of 3 prime ministers? Yes, of course. 4 times to date. But we're only doing 1 today because we don't have time for all of them. And we're going to do the most obscure one because I hate growing this channel. Roll the intro. And we start off with gusto back in 1896 when the year opened and this toilet clog was in charge. His name is spelled Mackenzie Bowell, but I think it's pronounced Boole. How he got here is the least covered 5 years of Canadian history in schools, but absolutely fascinating as it involved 2 prime ministers dying in office, another dying right after quitting, and then this bearded gentleman getting the job only because he was the most experienced, and seriously, why are they all dying? It's a conspiracy. He was a very senior member of the British North American Orange Order, an organization that cared for and advocated for the rights of Protestants in Canada, and who, on occasion, would go to the nearest Irish Catholic neighborhood for some good old-fashioned FUN, or fight undesirable nationals. Yeah, no, they kinda had a history of violence toward Catholics. Anyways, our 5th Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen. So anyways, after a rift within his own party over the Manitoba schools question, his own cabinet started resigning, and he was ultimately forced to step down. The first, and I would argue, the only time the cabinet and caucus, in effect, successfully removed a sitting PM completely against their wishes. So with Bad Boy Boole out, who is going to sit on the left side of this table in that comfy PM chair? It's golden, by the way. It's in black and white because color hadn't been invented yet, but trust me, it's golden. Why, none other than yoink, gangsta Sir Charles Tupper. This bad boy was former High Commissioner to the Motherland and the last former Premier of colonial Nova Scotia before they became a part of Canada. He commanded respect for his work getting the most touristed Atlantic province into Confederation, making him the last father of Confederation to sit as Prime Minister. But most importantly, as a physician by trade, he could cure any burn sent his way in Parliament. Except that was kind of a lie. I mean, he was a physician. No, what I meant is that he was sworn in as Prime Minister just after a general election was called, so he literally never sat in the House of Commons while PM. The mighty Tories that had won 6 out of the last 7 elections were seen as tired and worn out like my 10-year-old socks I refuse to get rid of, don't tell anyone, and incapable of handling the divisive nature of linguistic and religious issues. Laurier, on the other hand, abandoned his previous pledge for free trade with the United States and embraced the protectionist national policy championed by MacDonald, thus depriving Tupper of a crucial wedge issue. Not to mention he more or less promised a little bit of everything to everyone. A very, very smart political move if you ask me. By the end of June, it was clear. The old man and the party that had ruled for the last 18 years were out. And Wilfrid Laurier and the Liberals were in, even if they got fewer votes than the Tories. This upset Tupper deeply, and he would go on to dispute the results in some ridings and attempt to push through some political appointments for his best golfing buddies. Except the Governor-General said no and stole Tupper's appointment. Unable to treat this burn, as this was before our single-payer healthcare system, he finally agreed to step down after 69 days as Prime Minister. Still more than Liz Truss. The yet-to-be-cancelled Wilfrid Laurier ruled for the next 15 years. And thus, Canada's first tumultuous year of the 3 Prime Ministers was over by July, and Canada experienced 30 years of rock-solid government until 1926 and the king-byng affair. Dun dun dun. Also known as that thing you were forced to read about when you were 2/3 of the way through your grade 10 history class. But if this video wants to come out before the end of next year, we're gonna have to put a pin in that one for now. Because technically, while there were 3 prime ministers that year, 2 of them were just the same guy. So